how did it take Four Roses this long to do this? And was it worth the wait? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So, 4 years, Four Roses has been releasing two types of single barrel offerings. The first is the well-known $45 to $50 staple, their Single Barrel OBSV recipe. So you could get that pretty much anywhere across the United States and enjoy it. It's a very nice pour for 45 bucks, a great starter whiskey or a great whiskey to give as gifts. It's just beautiful presentation, as Four Roses tends to do, with good quality. Then you had the barrel strength single barrel offerings. So all 10 of Four Roses recipes at the distillery, or if your local store did a pick or anything like that, you might get your hands on one of their barrel strength single barrels. Those could be anywhere from 9 to 12, 16 years old sometimes if they did a really special one, and tend to be quite delicious. A little more expensive, around $100 these days. So, with all 10 recipes at their fingertips, it's kind of surprising they haven't done this, which is release all of their different recipes at 100 proof for that $45 to $50 mark in that more readily available kind of category. Not sure why they haven't done it up to this point, but interested to see if it really adds a lot of value to their line. Ultimately, it seems like they do plan to release all 10 of their recipes this year in 2025. They've already released 3. I have only gotten my hands on 2 of them, unfortunately. The one that I don't have is the OESO, but I do have the OESK and the OBSV. So if you're new to Four Roses, or maybe this is just a good time for a refresher, let's review how these single barrels are labeled. So first letter is the O, that just stands for their distillery. The second letter is a big one. It differentiates the two mash bills. So you got E and B. E is the lower rye mash bill, so 75% corn, 20% rye. And then B is the higher rye mash bill, 60% corn, 35% rye. The S, I think that just differentiates or says single barrel. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter that much. And then the last letter does matter. That refers to the yeast strain. So they have 5 different yeast strains and 2 different mash bills, which if you combine those 2 together, you get 10 possible recipes. Yeast strains kind of vary up the flavor. That's where you get a lot of the differentiation. K is supposed to be a slight spice. And then for the OBSF, F is supposed to be a more herbal experience. So really interested to see how these come out at 100 proof as single barrels. I did do a tasting of all 10 of the recipes. They released that kit last year. So if you haven't checked out those videos, I sort of went through all of the different recipes, but this is different. This is the single barrels. We'll see if the quality is maintained and if it justifies that sort of $50 price point, and maybe if it's worth it to start collecting all of them and have all 10 recipes. So why don't we start with the OESK, a little bit lower rye, so maybe a little bit less kick, but good to start here. So on the nose for this one, it's fruity. Definitely gets some of that slight spice. A little bit of ethanol. Kind of a vanilla strawberry thing going on here. Caramel. I mean, it might have a little bit of a tobacco, spicy, herbal thing going on. I know that the F is supposed to be the more herbal, but this K is giving off that. They do have some notes here on the back to guide you a little bit, which I think is helpful when you have so many different recipes. It says baking spice, mellow oak, tea leaves, and caramel. So I can get behind the baking spice and the caramel. I can see a little bit of oak too. Tea leaves, maybe that's some of that tobacco herbal thing going on. But very, very nice. All right, let's go on the palate. Cheers. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Caramely. Definitely some oak. Maybe a little bit of chocolate. I can see that baking spice, tea leaf, some tobacco-y notes in there. So a touch of that. But it's really a lot of caramel and oak. Really, really good. A little bit spicy, but pleasant all the way through and pretty robust. I would say that mouthfeel for me was significant, sort of medium body to it. So not the most viscous thing ever, but got some punch to it and got some robustness in the mouth. But very, very good. And it does have kind of a distinct character, a little bit spicier, a little bit more potentially tobacco-y than the main OBSV recipe, if my memory serves me right. All right, let me get some water, then we'll go over to OBSF. Okay, so diving in here. Wow, so it's very different on the nose. Way more juicy red fruit. Something like dry and spicy like cocoa. It does have a slight herbalness to it. Just like fresh herbs or some earthy quality. You could even see like a coffee bean kind of thing going on. But good fruitiness too. So again, they have notes here. It says delicate rye, apple, mint, clove, cocoa. Ooh, mint. Let's see if I get any of that. I think it's more of a clove, but I do think there's a slight peppermint cocoa thing going on, which is interesting. I'm not a huge fan of peppermint hot chocolate. I know that might be a hot take. I just love regular old hot chocolate. I'd rather have French vanilla or something. Peppermint, I feel like I don't love it. But let's see how it goes on the palate. Cheers. Whoa. It's flavorful. That is herbally. Definitely the mintiness. Almost, I don't want to say dill because I'm not super familiar with all the different types of herbs, but it's got this earthy garden tone to it. Apple for sure. Kind of a juicy green apple for me. Less of the caramel and tobacco and darkness of some of the OESK, but this one is packed full of flavor too. Maybe a slightly thinner mouthfeel, but it's really, it jumps out of the glass. Now I just go back to the nose and yeah, that cocoa really there on the nose. Okay, so very, very good. Both of these kind of standing up to the test. I think that they're showing off a little bit. They're packed full of more flavor than I was maybe anticipating. I know that the single barrel strength ones are like that, but I didn't know if they were going to be able to keep up that kind of level of consistency. I think the OBSV one is consistently pretty great, and these are very good. Let me go back and forth a little bit more, and we'll just keep diving in. Okay, so we'll go for a second sip of this OESK. Yeah, oak. Really opening up into something more oaky. Cheers. Yeah, oak and spice on that. More of an oak and spice driven sip than maybe I gave it credit for on the first go around. It seems to be kind of building on the palate, which is nice. Maybe not as robust. The first sip felt a little bit thicker in the mouth, but it's good. It's really, really good. I don't know the age on these. There is no age statement on them. I think I've heard rumors that it could be anywhere in that sort of 4 to 8 year old range for these. Some could be older. Maybe they're really upping the ante, or maybe they knew that these first releases were going to kind of set the tone for all of their single barrels, so they went older. Because this one, to me, tastes more of like a 7 to 8 year old bourbon, which is nice. All right, let me go back one more time to the OBSF. Okay, we're diving in. Second sip here. Okay, so the green apple, that juicy green apple, is definitely on the nose now. I feel like their notes, their tasting notes, are actually pretty accurate. Maybe it's the power of suggestion, but I'm pleasantly surprised by how accurate I find them. All right, cheers. Yeah. Big apple, maybe some cherry. It's fruity at the center of it. It's got a little bit of spice. Less oak than OESK, or OESK. It's hard to remember the letters, but it's good. It's really fruity. It's juicy. It's got a little bit of that mint, herbal presence all the way through, but especially on the finish. I think the finish on both of these is what I would call solidly medium. Not overly long, but certainly not short. It's plenty long enough for you to sit there and kind of enjoy it for an extra 45 seconds or so. So, what are my final thoughts here? What's my final consensus? Again, apologies, I don't have the OESO. I have no idea why that didn't drop in my area at the same time as these guys, but I just did not see it. I went to a couple of different stores and none of them had it. They only had these. And I do like that recipe a lot. But these two, they're enough to tell me the standard is pretty high. The bar is pretty high here for Four Roses. I think they did a great job. I think that all 10 recipes might get a little muddled, like what are the significant differences, but these two are quite different from each other, so I think it's a good start. I think for $50, they're a great gift still. They're still accessible, which is nice. I appreciate them kind of holding down the fort with that more budget-friendly category. Not super budget-friendly, not in the $25 range, but still affordable in today's current market. And the fact that they're this different and that the quality is still very, very good is a good sign. I will be interested to see if that continues to hold up as they release more recipes. Again, if I was Four Roses, I would really load these. I would front load the releases with some great single barrels, get people kind of hooked, and then, get them to buy all 10. Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear if you've tried these yet. What is your relationship with Four Roses and their 10 recipes? Do you love it? Have you hunted all 10 down? Do you think it's kind of a gimmick and you're not sure what to make of it? Would love to start a conversation. While you're at it, hit the like button on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the Bourbon Hutch, joining us for the journey through 2025 and beyond. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.